Hello! In this video we are going to make our contract a bit more useful. You will learn how to use maps, records and addresses. So the problem with our contract at the moment is that we can just store one meme at a time. That's not what we want. In order to store the URLs of multiple memes that we can access through a corresponding key, we can use maps. So now inside our record state we will not store just one key value pair anymore. We now want to have a dynamic key value store of arbitrary lengths, meaning that we want to be able to add new key value pairs. So we are going to map keys, which will be integers, to the values, which will be strings. This will be our URLs. We can now save multiple URLs and access them through their unique key in form of the integer, which will be our index. One little note, we could actually use an unsigned integer here, since the value of our key will only be positive. But as I've said before, this is not yet implemented. Of course, now we need to change our init function. Let's remove our default URL and make our URLs map empty at its initialization. We also need to change our getMeme function. We now need to specify what meme we want to get back. So we need a parameter, the index, which will be an integer, but we will still return a string. And of course, we also need to change what we want to get back from the state. Now we need the URLs map of the value corresponding to the key, which will be our index. Let's also change the register meme function. We now have two parameters that the user needs to enter to save a meme. We need an index, which is an integer, and of course we need the URL, which is a string. We also need to change the update of the state through our put function. We now want to enter a new URLs mapping with the key index and the value URL that we get from our parameters. Nice, let's test this now. We compile and deploy. First, we need the register meme function. In the arguments, now we need an index. Let's use 1. And an URL. We'll use a short example URL again, url.com. Also important to note that we use a comma to separate the arguments in the input here. Let's call the function. We can see the execution of this contract already used quite some gas, at least a lot more than it did before. Now we save a second URL. Let's give it the index 2 and let's also call it url2.com and call the function. This worked fine. Let's try to retrieve the URLs. We need the getMeme function for this and we need the index of the URLs. First things first, and the return type is a string. Let's hit the button. Nice. Now we do the same for our second entry. This looks good too. Good job on getting this far. But let's keep it going. At the moment we are just storing the URL of the meme, but that's not enough for the functionality that we need for our DApp. So let's create a new record for the data that we want to store for each meme. I hope you remember records. That's also what we use for our state. Basically a key value store with fixed key names and typed values. Let's create a new record here on top and call it meme, because this is the data for each meme that we are going to save. We are going to need the address of the user who creates a meme, because we want to pay them later if someone voted on their meme. Let's call our key creator address and the value is an address. Next we need the URL, of course, this is a string. Now we also want the user to be able to submit their name, or rather a name with their meme. This is not really necessary, but it gives our DApp a nice personal touch and more fun with funny usernames. Let's call the key name and this will be a string too. The last key value pair we need is something that will keep track of how many votes the meme has already received. Let's call the key vote count and this will be an integer. Let's change the record that we're going to save with our state. First we change the name. Let's call our map memes. And we now no longer map our key to a string, but now to the meme records. We also have to go through our functions and change our URLs to memes. And here in the getMeme function, we no longer get back a string, but a meme record now. This already looks good, but we really need to change the register meme function. We now need to construct a record in this function. First, let's edit our parameters. The URL will get a little single quote here at the end. This is just a convention like the underscore in Solidity, so we can easily distinguish our global key from the function scope parameter. The parameter and the key of the record will be both named URL in this function. You will see it in the next line. We will add a name key, also function scoped, to the parameters, and this will be a string. Okay, now let's create a new let binding. In other languages it is often called a variable declaration. Let gives names to values, and this binding is scoped to the function, meaning we can't access it from the outside. Let's also call it meme. Here we input the key value pairs that we want to store. First, the most difficult, the address. But it's actually not that hard. Let's head to the documentation and see what native calls for addresses are available that we can use. Our goal is to find out the address of the caller of the contract. So here are a couple of interesting things. It's good to remember where to find them. But for now we need a function for a call. OKOrigin, the address of the account that led to this call, is not very relevant here. But the next one, call.caller, might be interesting. The address of the entity calling the contract. Okay, this is what we need. Perfect. Now create an address, get the value from call.caller. We also have the URL, which is the URL value from the parameter, same as a name. And in the end we get our vote count. Here we want the value to be 0. So when we create the meme record, the count should start with 0, of course. And now finally we need to update our state. We create a new map with the index key from the parameters, and the value will be our meme binding that we just created. Let's test this. Okay, we compile and deploy. Now let's register meme first. We use the register meme function, and now in the arguments we need the index. Let's make it 1, a comma to separate the arguments. We need our URL. Let's use url1.com, and finally our name, in my case Moritz. Okay, let's call the function. Great. Now let's get our memes. So we use the getMeme function. Okay, now what do we get back? We will get an address, a string, another string, and an integer. Okay, let's call the function. We have our address. The other values look right. Now let's try this with our second meme. Let's register another meme. Let's make it 2 and 2, and from max. And this works fine too. Perfect. Okay, that's it for this video. In the next video we will implement the vote functionality together with the ability to send some eons and optimize our contract.